What if the biggest threat to American democracy isn't a foreign adversary, a rogue politician, or even a corporate lobby? What if it's a program so secret, so compartmentalized, that it operates completely outside the knowledge of the president, the Congress, and every person who is elected to represent you?
That thing's getting brighter. What is that? It's... You don't think that's a... Do you see that? Whoa, wait. Do you see two green things sticking up? Where's my phone? Okay. Camera. Yeah, what is that? Because I'm seeing like different lights. Shit. I need to get my trap. That's a stationary store and it looks like there's UFOs that things flying around. Is that just what it is? I don't know. It looks like the amorphous, the sphere with the cube in it, and it changes, it rolls around inside of itself, changing shape and color. That one's down low, but it's red, and it's flashing. It's headed west. It's down low. What? It's like an airplane, yo. No. It just disappeared. I'm getting the chills. It just disappeared. But you saw it like flashing in real time, right? It wasn't flashing.
That's not a conspiracy theory. That is sworn congressional testimony. Welcome to Exposed News Outlet, where we shed light on topics that matter most. I'm your host, Andrea. Hit that subscribe button right now because today we are going somewhere mainstream media won't take you. And hit the notification bell for all the notifications so you don't miss out. This is an accountability story, not a sci-fi story. Now, before we get into it, I need to make something clear, because there are two different ways people usually cover this topic. Option one, you hear, quote, UFOs, end quote, and you go full alien conspiracy, flat earth, men in black, that's not what we do. Option 2. You zoom in on what is actually verifiable, what has been testified to under oath on congressional record, and you follow the accountability thread. That is what we do here. Because here is the real story. Whether these objects are extraterrestrial or not almost doesn't matter right now. What matters, what should scare every American regardless of party, is who is controlling these programs. With whose money? With zero civilian oversight. That is the democratic crisis hiding inside this story. Especially when you consider that the Pentagon has never passed. So let's talk about Dr. Steven Greer. Who is this man and why does he matter? Greer is a retired emergency room physician who founded the Disclosure Project back in 1993, an organization dedicated to calling the government to publicly release classified information about UFOs, UAPs, and what he calls advanced energy technology. In May 2001, that's 24 years ago, Greer held press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. that featured 20 retired military officers, FFA officials, and intelligence operatives, all going on the record about what they had personally witnessed. This was before any of the recent congressional hearings, before any of this was mainstream. 1993 Disclosed Project, 2001 Press Conference, 2017 New York Times Pentagon. UFO Story, 2022 AARO created, 2023 Congress hearing, 2025 continued hearings.
It's one word or two words, money and power. Now, when you're talking about, most of us think, gee, money, do I have enough money to put my kids through college? These guys that's not the issue. It's massive macroeconomic geopolitical power. Because now we're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars in assets. Mm-hmm. Now, keep in mind the entire U.S. government budget, whatever it is, $5 trillion. It's a rounding error. And most of that's not discretionary spending. That's entitlements, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. So when you're looking at these interests that want to maintain the status quo of the world financial, macroeconomic, and energy system, they will do almost anything to maintain that, even if it kills the planet, keeps, right now there's 3 billion souls on the planet that don't have any way to cook their food. They're chopping down rainforests and shrub in the desert in Africa. They don't have any electricity or gas. Yeah. 3 billion. This just came out in The Economist, a mainstream economic journal. So how do we, and that, of course, builds into the extreme poverty. It leads to radicalization, terrorists, resentment of the West. I mean, there are huge implications for this mistake that was made almost a century ago. Now, and this is known by a number of people, what a huge mistake this is. So when you're talking about the motivation here, I mean, people have killed for a lot more than $900 trillion, And the level of corruption is worrisome. Now, in 92, General Albert Stubblebine III, Burt, who had been head of Special Forces and Army Intelligence, Fort Huachuca, he intercepted me after we had this major contact event out in Florida and near Pensacola. And he subsequently, about a month later, personally offered me $2 billion to not pursue what I was doing and become part of his team.
$2 billion.
With a B, in 92. And I thought it was a joke, and it wasn't. And he described to me a sort of a black fund that they had gotten from the collapse of the Soviet Union in Eastern Europe, and that I would have complete access and control over it. But I have to be on their sort of team. They were trying to neutralize what I was doing. And as many people know, the CIA and some of those organizations have remote viewers who use consciousness to see remote places in the future.
Yeah, they've done studies with the Monroe Institute.
Oh, yeah, I knew Bob Monroe, all those guys. And Ingo Swann is a friend of mine, all these guys. But so they knew what kind of trouble I could make. So people have to also get their mind around the kind of just sheer, bribery, corruption that happens on top of threats, Oppo research. They'll make up deep fake photos and videos to defame you. I've been called everything you can be. And then they try to buy you off, and then if they have to, they'll try to kill you. If you're doing things at this level, I've been like such a troublemaker for them.
I mean, I think it's not so hard to believe anymore,
Well, anyone who's done your work can see the kind of things that could happen.
I can see it, but I think a lot of the U.S. population can't see it. Unfortunately, I think unfortunately, but fortunately, the Epstein trials, and then everything that happened around that, it's, the judge there was a assassination attempt on the judge. Epstein didn't kill himself, all these things, and so it's becoming more, I hate to say
accepted.
Yeah, I hate to say accepted, but it's out there, and it's becoming more and more and more common.
Well, and I think that, so imagine the stakes of something like you just mentioned, which I had no knowledge of, and it's just whatever, people are weird. Imagine something a millionfold in terms of its implications for the stakeholders who want to maintain their hegemony and control of the global military, industrial, financial sector. That's the level we're talking about. We're not talking about the boots on the ground, the guys who are the colonels who manage. I just brought a lieutenant colonel to D.C. who had been involved with these projects. And he had been watching what I'd been doing for 20 years and was waiting for this law to pass. So what I'm saying is that we really need to have people come forward now. I'm actually begging people. We've worked so hard to get it to this point, and it really is. I know that most people who have come forward, they were involved for a brief period of time, or they were in an office here or at a SCIF there or at a military facility or a corporate research project. And they don't know necessarily this whole picture. And so they're not culpable. They're not guilty of having done anything improper. They were doing as they were told. And they thought it was all being run properly, legally. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So they were used. And I think that that's very important. And so they have no liability. And now they're protected by the law, and they're protected, if we have to, tactically for security, which I have. But I think at this point that sort of thing, it can't happen because the profile on this is so high. I have a bunch of celebrities who like what we're doing. Something like that happens that I know about in my team, there would be 1 billion people who know about it.
You want to talk a little bit about the suppression of all this stuff in Project Mockingbird? Can we go into that?
Well, Mockingbird was one project, but it's an ongoing process that started really in full bore in the 50s. And that was to have major media people who were dual agents. They were in the media, but they were also on the payroll of the agency, CIA, or others, who And I have a document we published from I believe it was 92, where it says, it's a CIA document, we have people in every major news organization, it says it flat out, that are there to control, stop, alter stories at our request. So here's, I mentioned one myth, and that is that we have a free market and a free economy. We don't. It's managed. Because there's no way we have a free market economy when the most important sciences and technologies of the last 100 years have been ruthlessly suppressed. But the other myth that Americans buy into is that we have a free press, and the fourth estate, as it's called, a check and balance against excesses. But the major media, and also now the major tech companies, are actually actively involved in suppressing the story or spinning it. Now, what do I mean? When you see people on CNN or CBS 60 Minutes, the folks that they will allow to talk about it are people that have been cherry-picked by this cabal, this secret government group, to say what they're told to say. It's scripted.
Do you have any examples of this?
Yes, of course. Nick Pope, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, all those guys.
Okay.
And they have been, I know for a fact, been told what to say. And so they say, number one, first big lie, these are a threat to the national security, inferring that from outer space there's a threat. It's not true. If civilizations that are hundreds of thousands to millions of years more advanced than we are, if they were a threat, we'd be a charcoal floating through space about 1945 August with the atomic bomb. Number two, we'll get to that in a moment. Number two, they will say that we don't know what these are. Maybe they're from China. Maybe they're, and even senior members of the Senate intelligence community have said that. We don't know. Because some of those guys have gone up there and whispered in their ear all this disinformation and spin. I know who they are. When in reality, we know what they are, where they come from, which ones are man-made and which ones are extraterrestrial. We absolutely have that data. But see, someone like myself saying that, that's going to get cut out of any show. For example, I was on a show, it had 22 million people listening live back some years ago. And I started talking about some of the senior membership of this committee that's running this covert program. And I got to one name. I talked about Admiral Bobby Ray Inman. He's been involved for decades with this. And then he went to the Board of Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC. It's one of the crown jewels of contracting on these exotic propulsion and energy systems. And then I think it was during the election, the second election for W, I mentioned that one of the most senior people is Dick Cheney. And we went to an unscheduled commercial break. A voice broke in, and the host had no idea. And it said, Dr. Greer, change the direction of this conversation now, or we will dump this show live. I said, with 22 million people listening? He says, yes. Don't talk about this. And the host was so sad. And the host to this day will say, oh, we can talk about anything. It's like when Joe Rogan says, oh, yes, I can talk free speech. To make his deal with Spotify, the show I did with Joe Rogan, forcibly by the corporate entity, had to be taken out. It is not in the lineup. You have to find it elsewhere. So anyone who thinks that the media doesn't purge whistleblowers of what we're doing is naive. So Mockingbird, there have been a lot of code names for this. But we have a Air Force Intelligence, AFOSI, guy that I have on tape. And it's in the unacknowledged documentary. People should look at it. It's for free. You can see it for free on all these sites. And he was at Kirkland Air Force Base. And he admitted, and I'm quoting, taking bags of cash to people both in the local and national media, reporters, to secure their cooperation with telling stories or altering or putting a spin on them. So that corruption and rot reaches very firmly into the fourth estate and now big tech. And it's been proven now through files released that people are shadow banned, algorithms are changed. We had a whistleblower that we put his interview, he was willing to do it posthumously. So I did the interview with him, he died, his wife sent me his death certificate, and then I uploaded it on our YouTube channel. which I have. You can go to it. And his name was Pawlek, Pawelec. And he had been involved in the development of the embeddable radio frequency chips.
Really?
Yeah, and he knew of their use in simulating alien abductions that were being done by the CIA and military. We'll get into this in a moment, how deep the deception goes. So we put this up. In a few days, it hit 675,000 views. And then overnight, we check, and the counter is down to 6,700. They went in and chopped off those numbers so it would take it out of the algorithms as a trending video.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And so people who think that doesn't happen, I just want to say, I got a bridge to sell you to nowhere or swampland to sell you because they're just simply naive. And this is another reason why we have to find creative strategies to do this, because the corporate, if you look at the major media, there's a handful of individuals and corporations that control all of them, all of it. And that becomes a problem when there's this collusion between these covert operations and corporate. Now, to give a little history lesson, late 1800s, early 20th century, something developed called fascism. Of course, now anyone that you disagree with, you call them a fascist. Mm-hmm. But the definition of fascism were large financial and corporate interests controlling government policy and what the government would do against the interests of the people. That's what fascism is. Go look it up. Thomas Jefferson warned of it. He actually wrote warned of the unchecked power of the corporations corrupting government. That's where we are, but on a massive scale globally. So that's happened with the media, it's happened with the government programs, and it's happened in other sectors, financial, what have you. So the interests of we, the people, have gotten run over by the interests of a relatively handful of extraordinarily powerful corporate and individuals.
Now, I want to be straight with you because that is what this channel is about. Greer is a polarizing figure. Some of his specific claims, including allegations about extraterrestrial beings being held, scientists being killed in large numbers, and certain contact protocols, are not independently verified. However, I have followed and researched his work for many years, and it is very credible. In July 2023, the House Oversight Committee's National Security Subcommittee held a historic hearing. 3 witnesses testified, and what they said under oath was extraordinary. Let me show you this clip of David Grusch, congressional testimony, July 26, 2023.
Mr. Chairman, ranking members and congressmen, thank you. I'm happy to be here. This is an important issue, and I'm grateful for your time. My name is David Charles Grusch. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty, Air National Guard, and Reserve, at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2023, at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. I became a whistleblower through a PPD-19 urgent concern filing in May 2022 with the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Following concerning reports from multiple esteemed and credentialed current and former military and intelligence community individuals that the U.S. government is operating with secrecy above congressional oversight with regards to UAPs. My testimony is based on information I've been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country, many of whom also have shared compelling evidence in the form of photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony to myself and my various colleagues. I have taken every step I can to corroborate this evidence over a period of 4 years while I was with the UAP task force and do my due diligence on the individual sharing it. This is because of these steps, I believe strongly in the importance of bringing this information before you. I am driven by a commitment of both to truth and transparency, rooted in our inherent duty to uphold the United States Constitution and protect the American people. I'm asking Congress to hold our government to this standard and thoroughly investigate these claims. But as I stand here under oath now, I am speaking to the facts as I've been told them. In the U.S. Air Force, in my National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, reservist capacity, I was a member of the UAP Task Force from 2019 to 2021. I served at the NRO Operations Center on the Director's Briefing staff, which included the coordination of the Presidential Daily Brief and supporting a variety of contingency operations, which I was the Reserve Intelligence Division Chief backup. In 2019, the UAP Task Force Director asked me to identify all special access programs and controlled access programs, also known as SAPs and CAPs, we needed to satisfy our congressionally mandated mission, and we were direct report at the time to the DepSecDef. At the time, due to my extensive executive level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it. I made the decision, based on the data I collected, to report this information to my superiors and multiple inspectors general, and in effect becoming a whistleblower. As you know, I've suffered retaliation for my decision, but I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency.
Now let me give you context on who David Grusch is. Because this is not some guy in a Winnebago. Grusch was an intelligence officer for 14 years in the U.S. Air Force and the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency at the equivalent rank of a full bird colonel. He served as his agency's representative to both the UAP Task Force and the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, known as AARO, the Pentagon's own designated office for investigating UFOs. And when he came forward, he said it plainly. The U.S. government has been operating with secrecy above congressional oversight with regards to UAPs. He said he was aware of programs that have recovered what he described as non-human craft and biological material or beings. And he said the retaliation he faced for speaking up was, and I'm paraphrasing here, very brutal and very unfortunate. He was not alone. Also testifying, Commander David Fravor, a decorated Navy pilot who described the now famous 2004 Tic Tac incident off the California coast, an object smooth and seamless, hovering over the water, then climbing 12,000 feet in seconds before disappearing. Detected 60 miles away less than a minute later, Fravor testified that this technology was, quote, far beyond our material science and capabilities, end quote. Let me show you this clip of Commander David Fravor in the congressional testimony, key moment, of the Tic Tac speed and maneuverability.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Congressmen, Congresswomen. I want to first thank you for the invitation to speak to the committee on the UAP topic that has been in the news for the past 6 years and seems to be continuing to gain momentum. As you know, my name is David Fravor. I'm a retired commander in the United States Navy. In 2004, I was a commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 41, the world-famous Black Aces. We were attached to Carrier Wing 11, stationed on board the USS Nimitz, and had begun a 2-month workup cycle off the coast of California. On this day, we were scheduled for a 2v2 air-to-air training with the USS Princeton as our control. When we launched off Nimitz, my wingman was joining up. We were told that the training was going to be suspended and we were going to proceed with real-world tasking. As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller had told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space. We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact. As we looked around, we noticed that we saw some whitewater off our right side. It's important to note that the weather on this day was as close to perfect as you could ask for off the coast of San Diego. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas, no whitecaps from waves. So the whitewater stood out in a large blue ocean. All 4 of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping-pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We continued down another 270 degrees, nose low, where the tic-tac, or we considered 270 degrees to where, and we went nose low to where the tic-tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the tic-tac was about 12,000. As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the whitewater was at, and it was gone also. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cap point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed." We returned to Nimitz. We were taking off our gear. We were talking to one of my crews that was getting ready to launch. We mentioned it to them, and they went out and luckily got the video that you see, that 90-second video. What you don't see is the radar tape that was never released, and we don't know where it's at, of the active jamming that the object put on an APG-73 radar, and I can get into modes later if you're interested. What is shocking to us is that the incident was never investigated. None of my crew were ever questioned. Tapes were never taken, and after a couple days, it turned into a great story with friends. It wasn't until 2009 until Jay Stratton had contacted me to investigate. Unbeknownst to all, he was part of the ATIP program in the Pentagon led by Lou Elizondo. And there was an unofficial official report that came out that's now on the internet. Years later, I was contacted by the other pilot, Alex Dietrich, and asked if I'd been contacted, and I said no, but I'm willing to talk. I was contacted by Mr. Elizondo, and we talked for a short period of time, and he said we'd be in contact. A few weeks after that, I was made aware that Lou had left the Pentagon in protest and joined forces with Tom DeLonge, Chris Mellon, Steve Justice, and others to form Two Stars Academy, an organization that pressed the issue with leading industry experts and U.S. government officials. They worked with Leslie Kean, who is present today, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper to publish the articles in the New York Times 2017 New York Times. And it removed the stigma on the topic of UFOs, which is why we're here today. Those articles open the door for the government and public that cannot be closed. It has led to an interest from our elected officials who are not focused on little green men, but figuring out where these craft are, where they're from, the technology they possess, how do they operate. It also led to the Whistleblower Protection Act and the NDAA. There are multiple witnesses coming forward to say that have firsthand knowledge, and Mr. Grusch just covered that. What concerns me is that there's no oversight from our elected officials on anything associated with our government processing or working on craft. believe not from this world. This issue is not a full public disclosure that can undermine national security, but it is about ensuring that our system of checks and balances works across all work done in the government using taxpayer funds. Relative to government programs, even unacknowledged WAVE programs have some level of oversight by the appropriate committee members in the House and Senate, and this work that is said to be occurring from whistleblower testimonies should not be exempt. In closing, I would like to say that the Tic Tac object we engaged in 2004 was far superior to anything that we had on time, have today, or are looking to develop in the next 10 years. If we in fact have programs that possess this technology, it needs to have oversight from those people that the citizens of this great country elected in office to represent what is best for the United States and best for the citizens. I thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Fleet of them. Look on the
Thank you.
NSA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating. Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger, oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get... Did you box moving target? 02. No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at it fly!
The real story, the oversight crisis. Here's where I need you to really stay with me, because this is the part that mainstream media keeps missing. Former Navy Rear Admiral Tim Gladden, who testified at the November 2024 hearing, made a statement that should have been on front page news everywhere. He told Congress that the UAP information is being withheld not just from the public, but from senior Pentagon officials and from members of Congress themselves. He testified that satellite imagery of UAPs from just a few years ago still has not been shared with Congress. Senator Kristen Gillibrand has said she intends to investigate whether, and I want you to hear this carefully, whether rogue special access programs exist that no one is providing oversight for. Senator Marco Rubio, Vice Chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, said there are people who have come forward to his committee with firsthand knowledge of these programs and that they are being blocked from providing full testimony. That is not fringe. That is bipartisan. That is the Senate Intelligence Committee. And then there is the September 2025 hearing where a whistleblower named Borland submitted written testimony detailing that her professional career was deliberately obstructed after she came forward. She was blacklisted from agencies within the intelligence community. Phishing attacks were used to assess what she had disclosed. She said she and other whistleblowers had, quote, no job prospects and no foreseeable professional future in a nation all of us came forward to serve. Now let me come back to Dr. Greer directly and talk about some of his specific claims and where journalism requires us to apply a critical eye. Greer alleges that secret programs have been reverse engineering recovered crafts for decades. And actually, it's been since the 30s they've been recovering these aircrafts. He alleges that witnesses, scientists, and whistleblowers have been killed or disappeared, including, most recently, there's been 13 astrophysicists and scientists directly involved in these whistleblower contexts and that are now either disappeared or have been killed, including they've been trying to take his as well. He alleges that the men and women running these programs are not elected, not appointed, and are not accountable to any known governmental authority. Now, here's my honest take as an independent journalist. The framework, unaccountable secret programs, that has now been corroborated by sworn testimony. The claim about scientists being systematically killed, that is not independently verified at this time. However, it's not a coincidence.
Tonight, the FBI continues its probe into space scientists dead and missing as the death toll actually rises to 17. Good evening. I'm Nancy